stopping you from living your dreams? And what are you willing to risk or sacrifice in order to live your authentic self? Well, if you're like hundreds of people, maybe thousands who have written to me, it might be your family and friends. Yeah, a lot of people write to me and say that their family and friends don't approve. They want to live in an RV. They want to do this or that. And their friends are just up in arms. They're not agreeing, and they're really feeling stuck and uncertain about what to do. And so in today's video, I'm going to answer that question for you from my humble perspective on this, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute.
Nobody gonna do it for you. Got to find your own.
Hi friendlies, I'm Carolyn, and welcome back to my free to be authentically me life. That's my new tagline. What do you think? I'm still trying to figure out where I'm going to fit it in, but anyway, welcome to my life. And today I'm going to answer for you. I mean, I've gotten this question by email more times than I can count, and I've seen it in comments more times than I can count. There are so many people, especially women, now that I think about it. I don't know that I have ever gotten this type of email from a man. So it's really another interesting take on society about why women feel this guilt and this responsibility to family members and appeasing other people when men don't. Because honestly, I don't think I've ever heard this from a man. And it also speaks to the fact that the society tells women that we shouldn't be free, that you shouldn't go out and live this life because it's scary out there and bad things are going to happen to you. Little Red Riding Hood, right? Has anyone read Women Who Run with the Wolves? And I think it's in that book, Little Red Riding Hood. What happens to Little Red Riding Hood when she goes off on her own? She gets eaten by the big bad wolf. And there are stories and folklore tales that go back in every culture of women who go off by themselves and harm comes to them. And it's ingrained in our society. So I guess it makes sense that I get these emails from women and not men. Their family are freaking out. They think, oh, you shouldn't do that. Oh, no, I don't approve. And so the women who write to me, and they're my age and older, it's definitely a generational thing as well. The women write to me because they don't know what to do and they want my input. And while I don't feel qualified whatsoever to give, like, I feel like that's kind of like therapist talk. And I haven't felt comfortable at all in that people see me as someone who can advise them. But I'm gonna embrace that today and share with you just my thoughts on it and my perspective. And just full disclosure, disclaimer here: this is not professional help. This is Carolyn help. I'm going to read you some of the emails that I get. Carolyn, I have been dreaming about living free and living in an RV for so long. I'm really close to retirement. I'm almost there, and everybody in my family is on board except my sister. My sister absolutely won't speak to me. She thinks this is a terrible idea. She doesn't approve, and I don't know what to do. What should I do? Carolyn, I would love to live like you, but my son just thinks it's too dangerous and I shouldn't go out and do it on my own. I think I could totally be happy living like that. What do you think? Dear Carolyn, you have inspired me so much to see you out there living your dreams and living authentically and being so brave to run after what you want in life has just been so inspiring to me. I wish I had your courage. And maybe I would go out and try this, but when I mentioned it to my mother, she told me I was crazy. She said I can't do it. There's no way. So I don't know what to do. I mean, my whole family thinks I'm crazy. My mother, I think, is the only one who was brave enough to tell me to my face, but they all think I'm crazy and I don't know what to do. What should I do? Help. Okay. So after 2.5 years of getting emails like this, I'm gonna share with you my thoughts on this today. So I tend to be very direct. Just ask some of the former viewers who don't like me anymore. Because I'm direct. I'm not good at sugarcoating things. I mean, I'm not mean, but I'm direct, and I'm very direct about asking for what I need and asking and saying what I believe. And so, in full disclosure and disclaimer, if you don't want me to be direct, you might, if you can't handle that, you might want to turn this off now. So this is how I how I view that. And again, and I'm coming from a completely the opposite situation. I have no one in my life who gives a crap about what I do. I've had no parenting at all in my life. I've got no close siblings. I've got nobody who's ever, you know, given me constructive advice or anything like that. I have had to do everything on my own and figure things out as I go. So my take on this is probably going to be very direct and maybe unrealistic for some people who do come from very tight-knit families, but this is how I see it from my maybe not so objective point of view. It's your life. Bottom line is it's your life. You have one precious life. Well, depending on what you believe. Some people believe we have more and we keep coming back until we get it right. But most of us believe we only have one life. Is it really worth it? I mean, when all is said and done, is it really worth it to sit home being miserable, living a life that's not fulfilling, that's draining you, that's killing you, that's slowly like sucking the life out of you just to make your sister happy? This is how I see it. Many women go through life as people pleasers. I mean, that's the way we're raised. We're supposed to make everybody happy. And your sister, your mother, your brother, your son, your daughter, your aunt, your uncle, your spouse can either get on board and support you and be there to encourage you. Sure, they can voice their opinions. You know, I think that's really dangerous, but if it's really what you want, I will support you. That's what somebody who truly loves you and supports you does, in my opinion. I don't know, right? Somebody who truly supports you, someone who truly cares about you, who truly loves you is gonna say, you know what, I don't agree. I really do think that's insane. But if that's really what you want to do, I'm not going to stand in your way, and I'll help you. I'll help you make it not so scary. And, you know, maybe by working through this together, we can help alleviate my fears and help alleviate your fears as well. That's what somebody who really loves you would do. But somebody who puts their foot down and says, you know, it's stupid, it's crazy, and if you do it, I'm never going to talk to you again, or there's going to be a rift between us forever, that's not love. That's control. Are you going to let somebody else's fears, somebody else's false impressions of things, somebody else's complexes, somebody else's own complexes? Because when somebody reacts to you that way, it's not about you, it's about them. That sister or that mother or that son that's reacting to you, they're really reacting to their own fear and their own self-doubt, not to you and to yours. And so when you're thinking, you know, when you're faced with that criticism and you're faced with that other people's stress and other people's, you know, wanting to hamper you and put their foot down and say, no, you cannot do that, it's too dangerous, I invite you to ask yourself, how important is their opinion to you? Does it really matter? Really? I mean, is it worth giving up your life, what little precious time you have left? Is it really worth giving that up just to appease somebody else who's completely reacting out of their own issues, right? Because it's not about you. It really is about them. And so, you know, it's easy for me to say I don't have close family. And a lot of you ask me all the time, don't you have close family? And yeah, I have some friends in the Bay Area, and the really close friends I still have, and the ones who were, you know, more on the outskirts have fallen away like life does, right? Sometimes I think it's both a blessing and a curse that I don't have family. You know, it hurts sometimes. I feel like a little bit of an orphan, even though everybody's still alive. And, you know, it's really hard to not have people, you know, invested in my life who should be. That's really hard sometimes. But on the other hand, it's also very liberating. You know, I can do whatever I want. Nobody gives a crap. And maybe that's not fair. They give a crap, I'm sure, in their own way. They're just very silent and very far away about it. You know, and many of you don't have that luxury. Many of you have family, like in your face family, who are constantly telling you how to live and giving you unsolicited advice and opinions about how you should live your life. You know what? And oh boy, I can relate to that because I get that on YouTube. You know, if in my case, they're strangers who feel like they're family and feel they are justified in purging their own fears and uncertainty and complexes all over me, and it's exhausting, honestly. So I can totally understand where you're coming from and what a difficult decision that is. You know, I have had to let go of many relationships in my life. My brother, I'll bring up my brother as a perfect example. I'm going to get emotional maybe even talking about it. I love him, and I think about, he's the only person in the world, he's a year and a half younger than me, he's the only person in the world who knows what I went through. You know, I mean, we both had our own kind of different experiences, but we also had very same experiences. We were born to the same parents, raised in the same house. He's the only person in the world who knows that, and I miss my little brother, but there have been things that have torn us apart and they're irreparable. I just have had to let go of influences in my life that don't serve me, that don't make me feel good, that tend to be more toxic influences in my life. And I'm not saying the other person is toxic. I'm just saying that the mix, it combusts to make something very toxic. It's both. It takes two. It's not just one. And that is unfortunate. You know, that's the clearest example I have of someone who I wish I could have in my life, and I just can't. So I know what it's like to have to make very, very difficult decisions. And not just my brother, there are other family members I've had to make similar choices about. I can't keep people in my life who just make me feel bad about myself and who don't lift me up but tear me down, right? How many of you can relate to that? There are more than enough people in this world who want to tear you down. Just start a YouTube channel. And there are people in your own family, and it might be shocking and it might be surprising and you might even not believe it at first, but there are a lot of complexes, other people's complexes at play that they may not even be aware of. There's jealousy, and there's anger, and there's hurt, and there's fear, and all of those complexes within other people can be, you know, purged out onto you to make you feel bad and tear you down and to keep you in your place. And so maybe if you look at it in that perspective, thinking about it that way, maybe that'll help you find whatever you need within yourself, the courage, the inspiration, the drive to say, you know what? I'm sorry you feel that way. I really wish you could be on board with this, but I need to do it anyway. And I hope that we can still be close. I hope that we can still be friends. I hope that you will, you know, always be my sister. I love you, my mother, my son, but this is what I need to do for me. And if they refuse, if they put their foot down, do you really want to be in a relationship with someone like that? Even if it is a sister. You know, early on, when I was in my early 20s, did a lot of therapy and was in the AA program. And, you know, and I learned in my 20s when I moved to San Francisco that the family you make can be much stronger, much more healthy than the family you're born with. And the family you're born with, I mean, you know, I've kind of cursed the universe many times in what did I do in a former life to deserve this? I mean, like, really? I must have been really, really bad. And we don't choose our family. We can't pick our family. I mean, it's just completely like, you know, if you believe in God, it's God's will, or the universe, it's random or whatever. We don't choose our family, but we can choose whether or not we want them to stay in our lives. We don't have to. Just because they're blood, that doesn't mean we have to subject ourselves to their toxicity, to their anger and their hatred and their jealousy and all the things that they do to squash us down and make us feel bad about ourselves. Just because we were born, just because we have the same blood, doesn't mean we have to stay there and take that. We all have similarities in our DNA, so go out and find your real family. Go out and find really close friends who will support you and lift you up and stand by you and encourage you to live your life to the fullest and not try to squash you. Did that make sense? You know, I turn on the camera, I'm inspired, I have an inspiration, I read an email, I think about it for a half hour, and then I turn on the camera and talk. There's nothing scripted here. Sometimes I don't even know if I make sense. So but in the end, many of you are these open and honest, very unscripted videos are usually some of the ones that get the most positive feedback. And so I do know that just talking off the cuff like this, based on my own experience and 10 years of therapy, really good, intense therapy, I have learned a lot about myself, and I've learned a lot about human behavior and human nature and the psyche. And so I'm happy to be able to share that with you. Again, this is just my opinion, and I think if it boils down to one pat answer, it is to ask, how much are you willing to sacrifice your one life? Or for what are you willing to sacrifice your one life? For a sister who is so selfish, she can't get out of her own way to support you. For a mother who, you know, the same thing, she's only thinking of herself. What will I do without you? You know, when she's more than capable of taking care of herself. Or a spouse or a son, you know, maybe it's time to cut those apron strings. And I think that reassessing those relationships and really asking yourself the tough questions, because we, especially as women, have spent our lives taking care of other people, and oftentimes when we flip the script and say, you know what, it's my turn, I'm going now, bye, I got things I want to do, you're raised, you know, my mom is doing well, the spouse is gone, it's my turn, I'm leaving. It might be a little bit of a shock to some of our family members too, and they're like going, whoa, wait a minute, wait, but you've always been here to take care of me, you can't go anywhere. So that might also be part of what's going on, their fear of abandonment, or their fear of, you've always been there to take care of them, and what are they going to do without you? So there's so much that goes into this. Honestly, I think talking to a therapist might really help, and if you can't afford a therapist, I'll put a link to BetterHelp. BetterHelp is online therapy. And I tried it, and it was really good. You can get text and email and Skype, but it's a really good way to get affordable therapy, even if you just need to talk through this. And it's like half the price of going and seeing a therapist in real life, you know, 3D in the real world, and it's on your terms, and it's like half the cost. So it's a really good way. And you know, there's situational therapy that it works really well for some people. I've had to do more of a long process to undo 30 years of stuff. My type of therapist works well for me, but sometimes situational therapy is very effective just to talk through an issue. And I think if you're struggling with family and family dynamics, and when, you know, it's going to be different if it's a son or if it's a mother or if it's a sister or if it's a daughter, those dynamics are going to be different. And those objections are going to have different meanings and different bases depending on who they're coming from, or different bases, you know, whatever. I lose my grammar as I get older. There, you know, depending on the family member, though, those objections are going to be different because they're going to be coming from different complexes depending on your relationship to that person. Does that make sense? So that's why I think it's a good idea to talk it through with somebody who is professional and qualified to be able to deal with the human psyche and relationships and dynamics and things like that, because it really is tricky. Again, I can give my kind of direct off the cuff and just say, screw them, go, it's your life, you know, which is really what it boils down to. But I know that's not easy for everybody. And hopefully I've given you a lot of food for thought. If you enjoyed this video and you want more, subscribe below. If you want more behind the scenes information, click over here and join Patreon. And go out there, live your life. It's your life, one life. That's all you have. I'll see you next time. In the meantime, be happy, be free, and be kind. I'll see you soon. Mwah.